Breaking news from the stadium tonight as an anonymous fan foot the bill for 55,000 hot dogs, bringing that sweet tubed meat to everyone in attendance.
Free dogs! Yeah!
55,000 hot dogs? What does that even cost?
While the identity of this Frankfurter philanthropist remains anonymous, their all-beefy generosity will go down in history.
The new Mega Millions. More to win means more to give. How you spend it is up to you. Yeah!
For game odds and details, visit sceducationlottery.com.
At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Ranked #1 in innovation for 10 consecutive years and #2 among public universities for employability. ASU isn't just ahead of the curve, it's creating new paths to success. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online, that's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Welcome, friends, it's the MovieFilm Podcast. The MovieFilm Podcast, enjoy the show. Zachy and Brian are talking about movies. MovieFilm Podcast on the radio.
Welcome to MovieFilm. It's episode 319. I'm Zachy Hassan up here in Northern California and coming to us from the post-apocalyptic hellscape that is Los Angeles. Hunkered down in his bunker with fire whizzing by. He's living in the 1996 portion of Demolition Man. It's Brian Hall.
Would that there were high-end Taco Bells around me right now, Zachy.
No, that's the future portion.
I know. I'm saying I wish I was in whatever future I'm supposed to be living in right now.
You're in the portion where Wesley Snipes is like, those school bus drivers were coming into my territory. They knew what was coming.
Right. Yeah. We laugh. I laugh and cry.
We got to do both.
Yeah, we got to do both.
Well, I feel like we, for historical context, we should say that the reason we're saying this is because the Marines have been sent in to tame the riots and absolute pandemonium down there, which is confined to like a city block or two, right?
Yeah, it's important to note that we're scratching the surface of an issue out here that's nuanced and has a lot of components and is very serious and tragic. But yes, regarding everything going on in LA right now, my understanding is this past weekend there were protests in a very small area, and while it was largely peaceful, as always, there are always a few knuckleheads that show up and start throwing rocks and knocking things over, and crappy behavior, definitely, but nothing the police apparently didn't have under control. So the next thing you know, the president is sending out the National Guard, which had our governor like, why? We didn't ask for this. We don't need this. And so National Guard is sent out, which of course heightens tensions. And, people looking for a fight, not the initial protesters, but people looking for a fight show up and want to start something. And then you get the aggressive footage you'd expect to see on the news. The good news is, unlike past disturbances, this isn't spilling out over miles and miles.
So you're saying it hasn't gotten as bad as a Lakers winning the championship event?
From where I'm sitting, as far as I can understand it, no, like LA, there's definitely been escalation. Okay. So we gotta be realistic. There's been cars set on fire and things like that, but this hasn't been the same sort of crazy eruption that sort of happened in 2020 or, even earlier than that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This feels like something that got prodded and escalated and, And truthfully, when that happens, you are going to get some people that really want to cause some stuff. You are going to call those people out, and then they're going to do it. And then you're going to get what you wanted. You're going to get the narrative you wanted that you almost imposed. Yeah. So that's the messy moment that's happening right now. But, I think it's pretty obvious. I'm sort of trying to be sort of at a distance and objective speaking about the facts that are happening right now, but I mean, that's the dance. Truly, like, even as I'm trying to talk about this, like, I have my opinion on this, and I'm trying to like honor that, but I'm also trying to be like objective and say that, yeah, no, it's not good. Like, it's not good when you've got stuff burning down there, and that's stuff you
Right.
do want to squash. But then there is an appropriate way.
Well, so
to handle
that's
those
exactly
sorts
it.
of things.
And I wanted to nudge you on that a little bit, right? Because as you said, this stuff there have been things that were in the past. I mean, were further along in terms of property damage and things like that. Things that have happened in the past, right?
This is different. Yes.
This isn't at that point yet, and hopefully it won't. But I mean, did it require, calling in the National Guard? Did it require calling in Marines previously?
Well, no. In my opinion, from where I'm sitting and from the news that I have tried to ingest to get to the truth of it all, no. That does feel like an attempt at prodding and manufacturing a narrative. Yeah,
that's what sticks out to me, right? And I think that's really and it's extraordinary because what I'm seeing from people I know from the Midwest who are commenting on this, whose opinion is shaped solely by what they're seeing on the news, it is literally what I said. Oh my gosh, it's just the city's on fire.
Yes. Yes. Same. I've had people reaching out and being like, what the hell is going on out there?
Right.
I'm like, not exactly what I imagine you're hearing.
Right. And I think that's really a crucial thing. One thing I've understood just from conversations with people, and also just from things that they're posting and whatnot, I don't think people grasp how big the Los Angeles area is.
Enormous.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, there's the city proper is itself pretty big, and then you got LA County, which is even bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, at this moment, what we're talking about is really confined to, and you correct me if I'm wrong, a couple city blocks.
That's my understanding. Yeah. I keep saying that, like, those caveats, because I haven't actually turned on the TV today, so I don't have like the latest news. But yeah, that's my understanding. It's been limited to a couple blocks.
I mean, I'm going to sound like a broken record at this point, and I'm sure you've seen these references, but I mean, this is what Andor season 2 is talking about. I mean, not this particular, but this idea of the truth as a manipulable thing, and that when we lose our grounding,
mm-hmm.
and we're unable to have an objective truth that we can all agree on, things can get very dangerous.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're seeing that. And look, and this is me. I'm speaking for me. This is not Brian. This is what this administration has wanted. They've spoken of it even before they came in, and they're arranging the deck chairs to have that. They want to precipitate something. They want the tinderbox to catch fire. Absolutely,
because it helps. It helps their narrative.
It helps their narrative. And I will say, man, I knew things would be bad. I always knew that when the election happened. I have to be honest, I did not think they would get this bad this fast.
Yeah, I mean, and you have the receipts, right? Where one of the big first pokes, I think, that happened this past weekend was, again, yes, you're always going to have knuckleheads, and the police were managing it. Yeah. But then you have the president calling in the National Guard, mm-hmm. going over the governor's head. The governor did not order the National Guard, which is the way, that it's supposed to go. The governor calls in requesting something for their state. But then you can go back to old footage from like 2020 or something like that, and you have our now president saying that's not the president shouldn't call in the National Guard. That's something the governor is supposed to do. Like the exact opposite of what he has just done. So he does whatever suits his agenda to push the narrative he is willing into existence.
It's scary, it's scary because I'm just like, I'm like, if we're at a point now, I mean, literally, we're not even 6 months in, where we're okay with American troops being deployed on American soil. If we're shrugging it off culturally, collectively, what else are we going to be okay with?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I'm not trying to catastrophize, and anybody who knows me knows I'm not that way by nature. But again, this is where we're at less than half a year in.
I know.
And we got 3.5 more of this.
Yeah. And look, we've got complicated issues in this country. There's a lot of things over time that have become very tangled, and they have to be managed.
Right.
But doing that with a sledgehammer and a blowtorch is not the way to do those things.
Right.
And that's the thing that's really frightening to me. Those are the tools of choice in this moment. And it's
very well said. I was talking to my son a few weeks ago, and that's the point I was making to him. And this was not specifically about politics, but I was like, anybody who shows up in your life and offers a simple solution to a complicated problem, you should walk the other way.
Mm-hmm.
Because that ain't how life works,
Right.
They're probably trying to shine you on.
Yeah.
And I see a lot, I see a lot of that, which is applicable here. Oh, we got this problem, I'm going to take care of it. Oh, only I can do it. And it's like, there's a lot of harm, that I worry about. I mean, it's one of those things where you're just like, oh my gosh. And then there's this thing happening and this thing happening. And you sort of, it's like, how much of my brain space do I need to devote to being aware of what's happening without being engulfed by it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Like I just saw, the vaccine advisory board, we're just going to fire everybody on that. I'm like, well, hey, nothing could go wrong there.
Yeah.
Like all these things, you're like, this is a lot.
As you were saying that, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yes. But thank goodness we have the movies and we have at least this forum to vent a little bit.
This is frankly a nice retreat for me. I like coming here and talking about these things, and the movies are an escapism, and getting to talk about them with you is the most wonderful escape for me. So thank God for this.
Well, and you've had an opportunity to revisit some of your favorites recently.
Yeah, well, there's just so many things that I am looking forward to checking out, and I feel like they're all in the future. Like, I'm seeing Materialists tomorrow. How to Train Your Dragon. I'm curious about. The Life of Chuck. I'm curious about. So, in anticipation of all those things, I had this time where I wasn't really going to the movies, and I was very much anticipating Wes Anderson's newest movie, The Phoenician Scheme.
Yes,
and so. Because I was anticipating it, I was like, I'd kind of like to go back and watch his last two movies.
Okay. So because Asteroid City was one of them, right?
The French Dispatch and Asteroid City. And the reason being, I was like a little cooler on those.
I remember that.
Yeah. And I've been a huge Wes Anderson fan ever since the mid 90s. I mean, when Bottle Rocket was this undiscovered gem that my friend Jason and I discovered at the video store, and we're like, this speaks to us. I mean, that's how far I go back. And then of course, Rushmore, Life Aquatic, Grand Budapest. Like I love all those movies, but so it's sort of like weird to me that I didn't really feel like I connected with the last two. And I wanted to kind of understand why. And in rewatching French Dispatch and Asteroid City, I think I kind of figured it out. So we talk about a lot in this show, early Spielberg and Papa Spielberg, right? So early Spielberg is like, E.T., Jaws, Indiana Jones, Jurassic Park, all those sorts of films. And then there got to a point where he was like, look, I told those adventure stories and I love you for it, for loving them. But now I want to tell you something about history.
Yeah.
About
Lincoln.
Yeah, let me tell you about Lincoln and, Munich and all these sorts of things. And they're great, but they're a different Spielberg, right? A little darker, historical, more serious. So I've realized that there's basically early Anderson and storybook Anderson. Okay, so early Anderson, let's just go all the way back to Bottle Rocket. Like it has oddball characters in it who exist on planet Earth. And while occasionally kind of droll, they still have a lot of emotions.
Okay.
There's a lot of, they experience joy and heartbreak and laughter and whatever. And I feel like as the movies went along, his style kind of increased, and I loved it. And then you get to the Grand Budapest Hotel, which I think was the perfect merging of these two eras, early Anderson and storybook Anderson, because it is a highly stylized movie that takes place in a storybook feeling world, but its characters still emote and get frazzled, and scramble and are out of control, out of their depths. And it's really fun to watch. Then when you get to French Dispatch and Asteroid City, I feel like we are in like full blown, highly stylized world and characters. So the characters are very deadpan throughout. I mean, I've said this and I've seen other people say this, but it almost feels like those later movies feel like these elaborate dioramas that Anderson has made, and the actors are just dolls he's kind of shuffling around in them, rather than feeling like, like human characters with a whole range of emotions. So there was that. But one thing that really hit me when I revisited these two specific later movies was going with what I just said. They are sensory overload. Like all the visual information that's packed into the frame, the framing itself is super interesting and is drawing my attention. A lot of dense story information is being conveyed through characters in very monotone speech patterns. And I think these later films can be so dense that I almost need two viewings to even really have a feeling about them. The first viewing to let that stylized wave crash on me. And then another one to not be so distracted by all the dense visuals and storytelling, and actually be able then to sit in the story, because I found my eyes wandering a little bit because there was so much to take in as I was watching these movies. And then I was like, I didn't even listen to what that guy said. And I kind of missed it because he is saying it in a monotone speech pattern. So now that I'm at home, I rewound it. And then I was like, oh, that was clever, kind of a thing. So, with that in mind, if you'll indulge me, just because this is all I'm really going to talk about, but French Dispatch, I found it was interesting. I stand by what I originally said, actually. It's an anthology movie with three main stories, and I still enjoyed the first and third stories the most. I still just don't really connect with the second story very much, which was how I felt the first go around. But this time I was like, man, these are really good, Okay. And I was getting acclimated to this now pretty intense tone that Anderson is employing, storybook Anderson, right? And even the third story especially, I just really loved it. I mean, it's this really wacky tale about a policeman's son who gets kidnapped, but the story itself is told from a food journalist's perspective through his lens. And the story really is about feeling like an other.
Oh, that's interesting.
Socially, right? Or like living in a new place that isn't your home. And Jeffrey Wright plays the journalist, and he is incredible in this. And it's
he's good in everything too.
He's good in everything. And he's good in every Anderson movie too, by the way. And so it's just so heartbreaking and heartfelt. And there's so many incredible details and ideas. And I was like, wow, I remember liking this the first time, but I feel like going back into it, knowing what it was, not being hit so much by its density, like I was like, man, that was really lovely. And I just appreciated it so much more than I remember on first viewing. And likewise, revisiting Asteroid City, that was the one I actually think I connected with the least. It just highly stylized, gorgeous to look at. But every character in this is very flat, frankly. They speak very flat and they're very monotone. It's just it's a wavelength you gotta catch. It's, you know what I mean? It's a current you gotta try to get in on. And the first viewing, I just kind of didn't. And I think because I was overwhelmed by the incredible production design and whatever, I just wasn't getting on its trip. You know what I mean? And so this time, knowing what I was getting into and knowing it's kind of a wacky story and there's an alien in it, and I just totally connected with it. It was amazing. Like I almost wish I had seen it again in theaters. It's really just, but the story itself does make it a little bit difficult because really it's just about a group of people, some who are kind of sad, some who are outcasts, and they're stuck together in this quarantine situation, experiencing these extraordinary things like an alien, appearing and then disappearing and whatever. and then it's all over and life moves on.
Okay.
You know, like the theme of the movie really is, and so it goes. And I think not being so distracted by everything, or at least I'll speak to my own brain just because I'm so fascinated by filmmaking. I'm just drawn and sometimes distracted by the filmmaking itself. Getting to experience this movie again and really seeing it being sort of this meditation on grief, and the theme is, you know, really, and so it goes. You know, there's this brilliant moment where a character in sort of a meta way, it's hard to explain, but basically this character in a meta way is able to ask someone in the movie, like, I don't get this. I don't get what's happening. What does all this mean? And the person is just like, oh, the fact that you don't get it, that's fine. Just keep going. And that's it. It's about life. Like, there are highs, there are lows. You're going to be sad. You're going to meet people that make you happy. Those people are going to leave. And so it goes. Just keep going. You know, it's I don't know. I really connected with it on this viewing, and I'm almost sad that I dismissed it in a way that I did. But also, I think it's a kind of a reality of his movies is like, you've got to be calibrated, if you're going to step into his world. So, having said all that, I was really happy to have my headspace adjusted going into the Phoenician Scheme, because which
I wish this was Wes Anderson adapting a Robert Ludlum novel.
I would love nothing more. But this is very much storybook Anderson.
Okay.
So it's highly stylized, brilliantly stylized, and it's a very dense story, and the characters, they don't emote very much, and they're progressing the narrative through their flat, non-emoting, dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to be prepared for that, ready to step into that.
Gotcha.
But Benicio del Toro, he's the lead, and he is really good. He is really fun, a really interesting character. The story, it's basically about a rich guy who has a plan to exploit a country and all the people living there by like building its infrastructure, basically ripping them off to build this infrastructure that's going to make him crazy wealthy. And as this is, being set up, he's continuing to have these assassination attempts on his life that are kind of funny. And so he's realizing I might not last much longer, and I need to leave my wealth to somebody. So he reconnects with an estranged daughter who wants to be a nun.
Okay.
And so he's this selfish rascal, and she's this kind of pious, self-serious person. And along the way, as they're making these frantic moves to try to pull off his scheme to get this business deal done, they start to rub off on one another. And it actually goes in some really sweet directions, which I liked. And Michael Cera is in this. He now joins the Wes Anderson troupe, and he feels like he was born to be in here. And he has a lot of funny business to do. But yeah, so I thought it ended in a really sweet place, which was nice. And I was a little conflicted because I was like, okay, wait, what do I think of this? This was a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And as a person who, boarded the Anderson train in the early era, and I do love all those high emotions you get in Bottle Rocket and whatever, I do kind of wish the characters had emoted a little bit more. I wish we would see them crack a smile occasionally or wince or something. And we don't really get that. But having watched all these movies, I was on his wavelength, and I was able, I wouldn't say this is one of my favorites, but I really did enjoy the experience as a romp.
Okay.
So, for people who like Wes Anderson movies, I do think they will enjoy the experience ultimately.
Well, I think people who listen to this show for a long time know what a big Wes Anderson fan you are. So I think that will carry a certain amount of weight.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. At the end of the day, I'm going to always experience a baseline happiness watching any new story from him. so I'm always going to have that too. But yeah, I'm just really enjoying being back in his universe, and I'm thinking I'm going to just go back and kind of go through his whole thing again. So,
well, we'll keep us posted.
Yeah. Well, what about you? I mean, what are your feelings on Wes Anderson? And
I watched Bottle Rocket at your behest.
Right. Yeah. That was a real formative movie for me.
Yeah. So that was not the first Wes Anderson movie I saw, because pretty sure I saw Rushmore before that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Um, so Rushmore was a movie I appreciated, and I guess that's where I'm at. Like, I appreciate all of his movies. You know, uh, I I think that the craft that goes into them is so unique that you can do a, like, oh, here's, what if Wes Anderson did a Batman movie, and you can sort of imagine that in your
Yeah.
mind, right?
Yeah.
And I think that speaks to his approach, right? But I would say I don't rush out to watch his movies.
Totally.
You know, I haven't seen his most recent ones. I think the last one of his I saw in the theater was probably Grand Budapest, I think.
I feel like, speaking of his two eras or whatever, if both those eras are equally him, that feels like his like masterpiece, where he
Yeah.
really, all the best attributes of him came together in a perfect yarn.
I love that movie. Yeah, that's
it's
fantastic.
Great.
Yeah.
But what about you? What have you been watching?
Oh man, I've been so busy the last few weeks. It's weird because my you'd think with the spring semester ending, I had a little breathing room, but it's just like I'm trying to prep for my summer classes, and so it hasn't been a ton of time. But I well, actually, one thing I watched is Iron Man. My 11-year-old was like, "Hey, can we watch Iron Man?" I've never seen Iron Man.
Oh wow.
I was like, "How have you never seen Iron Man?" And then I realized, well, yeah, he's like, I've watched it with the other ones, And so him and my daughter, we watched Iron Man together, and this is not a new observation, and this feels extra stupid coming right after your very very eloquent statement of Wes Anderson's filmography, but Iron Man's good.
But you know what though? Yeah.
That's a good movie, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I'm feeling like my younger ones might want to like go through those early MCU movies, maybe probably turn this into like an Infinity Saga thing, which would be fun for me, just because I'd enjoy going through. Again, my daughter's is kind of in that zone now. She's like, oh, when are we gonna watch the Obi-Wan Kenobi show? She really wants to watch
right.
that. And I'm like, right on, man. Like she's I feel like, well, this is the time to get her geek on,
Yeah. Well, actually, that kind of makes me wonder. I mean, obviously, these are popular things at the moment, but what are the sorts of things she's bringing back from school? Like, are they into these movies as well? Like, is this what the kids are sort of talking about? Like, oh, I watched Iron Man. Oh, yeah, I watched Iron Man with my parents too. Or are there other things that she sort of brings home where you're like, what is that?
That is a good question. To be honest, I don't know.
I do remember when last time I visited, she really wanted to see Dogman.
Yeah, I think she's watched it.
Okay. She kept asking me, she's like, Brian, will you take me to Dogman?
Yeah, I think she was like mad that I wasn't taking her. And I'm like, look, I'll take you,
Yeah.
Either that or she's letting me know, listen, I'd rather have this man as my father.
No.
You have failed the test.
No, but it was just, it stuck in my head because I was like, oh, so I'm not super familiar with the books, but I was like, oh, so this is
about it.
Really
it's like it's spun off of Captain Underpants, I believe.
Right.
And I think she's watched it. I think it's on Peacock at this point.
Yeah.
So she must have seen it at some point. I suppose really I should talk to my daughter. I think that's the takeaway. Clearly, I don't know what's happening in her life. I know she's super into Hello Kitty.
Oh, really?
I didn't realize Hello Kitty was still a thing, but apparently it is. And Hello Kitty, by the way, is not a cat as I thought. It's a horrible mutated girl who is human.
Yeah. I feel like I knew that.
Yeah.
I'm very confused by Hello Kitty. I mean, obviously it's iconic. The design is great, but so it makes sense to me as like stickers.
Yeah.
But is she watching a show or something? Or is there like a story that she's following with Hello Kitty? Or is she just like the characters and the dolls?
No, I think she just likes the characters and stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Just curious.
It's funny, because I see her, Disney Plus, like she maybe a year or so ago, she would watch all the little girl like princess shows and all the little CGI, and now she's transitioned into like Phineas and Ferb, and like that's the stuff she likes now, So it's fun to see her moving through these things,
Yeah.
But I will say, I mean, when it comes to Star Wars, she's very adamant. She's like, I don't like the Jedi. I like the Sith.
Are you serious?
Yeah, which is slightly concerning.
What about them?
I don't know. I'm afraid to ask, to be honest.
She's like, with them, there's no rules.
She's like the what is it? The whatever Anakin says. The Jedi turned against me. I'm like, Revenge of the Sith was her on ramp, so I guess it kind of makes sense.
Right.
Maybe it's my fault, right?
That is hilarious.
It's like literally because she calls the Star Wars theme, she calls that the Jedi theme, even though it's not, right? But
right.
She's like, that's the Jedi theme. I don't like the Jedi theme. I like the Sith theme, and that's the Imperial March.
You know what that reminds me of? This is one of the funniest stories you've ever told me, and that I think you've ever said on the podcast. But you talked about seeing The Force Awakens in the theater. And spoiler, but when Kylo Ren kills Han Solo, you were looking at your kids, just kind of curious how they would react. And you said they were all looking at the screen, rapt with attention and shocked. But your second oldest turned and looked at you. And you said it's almost like he had a look in his eye as if, we can do that? like he had just been introduced to the idea of patricide.
It's so funny. Can you believe
that story has stuck with me as one of the funniest stories you've ever told me. It was so funny.
And that he was 6. That was 10 years ago, if you can believe that.
Wow.
Yeah, so she's following in that trajectory, I suppose.
All right. Hey.
Actually, while we're talking about Star Wars, real quick, I wanted to mention this. I just finished my second rewatch of Andor. Which have you watched Andor yet?
I'm knee deep in it.
Well, I'm glad. I'm glad you're knee deep at least.
Yeah, I still have some episodes to go.
I just my wife wanted to watch it, so we finished the season. That was fun watching it with her. But and this is not a spoiler about the show, but every episode ends with the Andor theme, and it's this very mournful piece of music, and whatever. And then the last episode it has that, and then at the very as the credit sequence is ending, that Andor mournful theme, morphs into like every Star Wars movie.
Mm-hmm.
And you have this sudden like, oh yeah, this is Star Wars,
Yeah.
And I don't know, for me there was just something really cool about that, because it to me it enriches the whole universe.
Right.
I love the idea of watching A New Hope with all of this new context that makes the victory they achieve at the end of that movie feel even more precious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well put. Yeah,
and that's the best thing. I don't know. For me, we talk about this enough, but that's what I want. I want all kinds of different Star Wars set in this universe.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't want everything to be Andor, but I'm glad Andor exists.
No, same. And I have to say, I was out. I need to buy a pair of pants, and I was at the mall, and I was buying my pants, and I was wearing my Lucasfilm hoodie.
Nice.
And the cashier was like, "Oh, cool, Lucasfilm," and he goes, "Have you watched Andor?" And I was like, "I'm knee deep in it."
That's your go-to.
Actually, I didn't say that specifically, but I was just like, "Damn, all right, I really got to finish this."
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
And that's a real thing that happened. Somebody out in the wild asked you if you'd seen Andor.
Yeah.
See, that's kind of interesting anecdotal data point.
Yep.
It has definitely broken through to a non devotee audience.
Right. Well, I mean, because it was so well received.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen so many people saying this isn't just a good Star Wars show; it's a good television show. And so I think that's what I was hearing from so many different places. So I'm sure people heard that and were like, well, all right, let's give it a shot.
And I don't want to hype it up too much for you.
Oh no. Yeah. I don't know why. It's just, I clearly with all this Anderson stuff, I've been in kind of a whimsical mood or something. Mm-hmm. And I'm very much the type of person, just anecdotally, I'll talk about this maybe another episode, but our mutual friend Bushra, she loaned me the movie Drive My Car,
Okay.
which is a 3-hour drama. And I've had it for months. And it's not that I didn't want to watch it, but I'm like, no, I have to be in the right headspace for this.
Gotcha.
Because I'm the type of person, and I know most of us and everyone listening is this too, but like I don't pick up my phone when I'm watching something. Like I give myself to it. And so if I want to watch something funny, I want to be in the mood for something fun. I'm not just going to put that on tonight because I have 2 hours. Like I pick the mood where I'm going to respond to it best. And I think for that one, I'm like, maybe like some weekend where I can just kind of go through it all as a whole.
Yeah.
Or something. I think that's what's sort of keeping me from just doing 1 or 2 a night.
Well, if you're not in the mood for Andor, I think I know exactly what'll scratch your itch, and it's the new Netflix series FUBAR.
All right.
I should say not the new. This is the second season of FUBAR, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger.
So Arnold Schwarzenegger has a show on Netflix.
Yes, which is in its second season now.
Wow. Okay.
And you had no idea.
This rings a bell.
Yeah. Like shaking some cobwebs loose for you a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like see, it's funny, all this later, more recent Schwarzenegger stuff, it's sort of like this weird swampy whatever in my brain where I'm like, wait, wasn't he in a movie where like his daughter was a zombie?
Mm-hmm. Which
and
is
then
good.
he's got like a TV show, and like, so like I'm aware of these things, but I don't remember if that was the show. I don't remember if this is the movie. Yeah. So well, the second season of this just dropped on literally today as we're recording this, and I reviewed it for the paper, and it's not good in my opinion. I didn't like it. The premise is that he plays CIA agent Luke Brunner, which actually on the spectrum of Arnold Schwarzenegger character names is kind of on the more acceptable end, you know. Yeah. You've always had like a great like bit about that, about Arnold Schwarzenegger's name.
John Matrix, John Kimball.
Yeah.
My favorite, Gordy Brewer.
Sounds like a hockey player.
I know. And it's Monica Barbero from Top Gun Maverick, and of course she was just nominated for an Academy Award for
Complete Unknown.
Yes, that's right.
As Joan Baez. She's great.
She's fantastic. She's a Bay Area native, by the way, so we claim her proudly here.
Nice.
And she plays his daughter, who is also a CIA agent. It's like a Mr. and Mrs. Smith type thing where they're both CIA agents, but they each didn't realize the other was.
Okay. Are they opposed to one another?
No, they're on the same side.
Okay.
So it's like Mr. and Mrs. Smith meets True Lies, kind of, you know.
Got it.
And what I realized watching it certainly the second season, I'm like, this is 8 episodes of about an hour each. I'm like, this is what I said in my review. It's 90 minutes of story sloshing around an 8-hour bag.
Wow. Yeah. When you said an hour, I was like, an hour?
Right?
That feels like a 30-minute show to me, but
yeah, that's exactly my thought. I was like, oh, this should have been broken up into those chunks, and so it's, you know, it's him and his daughter and their team, and they've got like a case that they're trying to unravel, and it's, you know, Carrie-Anne Moss is kind of the heavy for the season, and she's great, of course. Any chance to see her, the tone, they were clearly going for like a True Lies thing, but I think what True Lies does is True Lies is very funny.
Mm-hmm.
But you never lose sight of the stakes.
Yeah.
And I think this one, it can't figure out where it wants to land tonally.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so that was my problem. I just couldn't get, and I think it would work better on a smaller canvas. You know, if it's a 2-hour movie, then that's the interesting thing, by the way. Sorry, I'm talking into my own tangents. If it's a 2-hour movie on Netflix, it's deemed instantly forgettable. If it's an 8-episode series on Netflix, it's deemed potentially prestige TV.
That's so funny. Yeah, I remember saying this like an episode or two ago, where I was watching some documentary. Yeah, and I was a little put off because I thought it was going to be a 2-hour or less documentary.
Right.
And then I saw it was multi-episodes, and I was like, are you... So I almost didn't watch it, but then I saw the episodes were only 30 minutes, and the whole thing only totaled about an hour and 45 minutes, and I was like, What are we doing?
Yeah, so I think FUBAR kind of gets into that. I will say this: every time Arnold is on screen, he is fantastic, man. He knows the
Yeah, sure.
assignment. He is fun to watch. It all works, you know. He does a reenactment of the famous '90s catchphrase "What's up," which honestly, just give me that and just release that on Netflix. Forget all the other 8 hours. Just give me those 30 seconds
right,
and give the man his Emmy. You know.
Well, it'll be a good GIF.
I think it's going to end up being one for sure, you know. And there is like this is the thing, because it's like clearly like, you know, I mean, the guy is like pushing 80, right? So it's got to modulate his workload, and he looks great, obviously, but they have to give the other characters stuff to do it. But it's like every time we cut away, I just become less interested when it's not Arnold and Monica Barbero. However, there is an amusing plot line involving Jay Baruchel, who is her boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just completely out of his depth, and he's very funny. Jay Baruchel's always funny. Right?
I like him. He's charming.
He is. So that is all good. I would not recommend FUBAR season 2, but I'm glad to see Arnold is out there still working, still doing his thing.
Did you see? You know, Variety has their actor on actor series, and there was one with Colin Farrell and Danny DeVito.
Okay,
and
Penguin on Penguin.
Yes, exactly. And then there was a behind the scenes clip that's been going around that I saw where Schwarzenegger, I think he's talking to his son, Patrick Schwarzenegger, and Danny DeVito kind of, you know, pokes in like, oh, hey. And Schwarzenegger's like, hey. And they're talking to one another, reminiscing. And it's, you know, a twins reunion or junior reunion, if you will. And it, you know, they look much older. But it's so nice seeing them together. And there's a moment where a lot of people this is the thing people are reposting and kind of their hearts are bursting. You see Danny DeVito's like, hey, let's go find Colin Farrell and bother him. And so as they're walking away from the set, DeVito puts his like arm around Schwarzenegger's arm.
Okay.
Because he's a little older, you know, and it's a little more difficult to walk. And he's just like leaning on his much bigger pal. And they're just these two old men that are looking kind of affectionate with one another and just like real old friends. And it's just a really sweet thing to see.
That just sounds lovely, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah, it is nice. I was curious if you'd seen it.
I haven't seen it, no, but I'm going to seek it out now.
Yeah.
But yeah, don't rush to seek out FUBAR. I would say you've got Drive My Car waiting for you. So, you know.
Oh, I did watch that.
Oh, you did watch it. Okay.
Now I have I have a lot of movies coming out this weekend and whatever that I'm looking forward to. But Andor, I'm going to make that a priority so I can talk about that next episode.
All right. You had best.
Yeah.
You best get on that. Yeah, we Amin and I, we went right into Rogue One after that because she hasn't seen that since it came out. Right. And without spoiling anything, I mean, Andor ends right where Rogue One starts.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. So I'm like, oh, we obviously got to go right into this. So that's fun, you know,
which is fitting because Rogue One goes right into where A New Hope starts.
Yeah. And what's really cool to me is that, like, again, let's say Andor is your on-ramp into the franchise. You've got a conception of the universe that's like relatively grounded, you know, and then you get into Rogue One, and you know it's still somewhat tonally consistent with Andor, and then at the very end you've got a Darth Vader doing with the space laser sword and flipping people in the air and doing all this stuff, and it's like it just completely it turns into this different thing, you know?
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, man, what is that like?
Yeah.
What is that like for somebody experiencing it this way?
That's kind of a nice tease. Yeah. Out of the Andor universe to be like, wait, people can do that?
Yeah, right. You know,
yeah.
You know? But yeah, so that is that, and oh, hey, we have a whole bunch of listener letters I wanted to mention.
No, great.
Mail call.
I believe you have a letter for me.
18,000 letters, all addressed to Santa Claus.
You've got mail.
All right, here's a comment we got from Charles Landy. He was referring to our Goonies commentary track, which we just dropped last week. He says, this might be one of the greatest ensemble movies ever. The character interactions and banter are absolutely unmatched. It's no wonder they're all still friends now when we all watched them become friends on screen 40 years ago. The gold standard of action adventure for kids.
Agree 100%.
It really, like, it set the bar to the extent that, again, you don't get Stranger Things without the Goonies.
Yeah.
You don't get a Skeleton Crew, speaking of Star Wars, without the Goonies, you know?
Yep.
Because they're kind of like, well, it needs to be something like that, or it needs to contrast with that, you know?
Yeah.
And it holds up, I'll tell you.
And the chemistry with those kids is through the roof, and you still feel it all these years later. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Here's another comment, and this from Rob Kelly, who says, I was really enjoying this commentary until Zachy mentioned the Nutty Putty Cave. I didn't know anything about this, so I stopped the commentary and found a YouTube video about it. I wish I hadn't.
I got to be honest, I didn't know what he was talking about because I had forgotten the name, but I do remember this. And yes, it's awful.
And so naturally now here I am bringing it up again. I'm like, well, I had to live with this awful thing, so I might as well, have it live in other people's minds.
Well, at least now I'm pretty sure you probably gave some sort of warning when you mentioned it in the commentary, at least I hope. But now we can say, if you get disturbed by the idea of being trapped in really, really tight areas, do not seek out the story of the Nutty Putty Cave.
Well, and here, let me give like a high level so that
sure.
People know. Essentially, there is a cave system in Utah, and it's called the Nutty Putty Caves because of the consistency of the walls, right? And so the system had been mapped out to some extent, and people would go in and explore. Now I've said this before. I'm like, don't explore caves. Just don't, and I think partially it's because of this story, right? So there's this fella named John Jones, again, who was married. He had a kid on the way. He was visiting his family, and this is like Thanksgiving week. And so he and his brother and some friends, they went to explore this cave system, and essentially he just took a wrong turn. And so it was like, you go through and it gets very, very narrow. You're crawling on your hands and knees. And he was going through something he thought was called the birth canal.
Yeah.
Right. So in essence, you squeeze through very tightly, and then it opens out into a larger room. And then you have the ability to sort of turn around within there, and then you go back out.
Right.
And it turns out he was completely ass backwards. He was not in any way anywhere near what he thought was the birth canal, and he was in fact in an unexplored area. And so this thing that was narrowing actually kept narrowing until it basically just stopped at like a facing downward. So he was stuck facing downward with one arm to his side and one arm out in front of him, and he was essentially inverted.
Yeah.
And so it's horrifying to even think about, right? Completely stuck, unable to move. And they began the process of trying to get him out. They set up a pulley lever system. The pulley lever broke, so it actually lodged him further in.
Yeah.
And eventually his body gave out, because the human body is not meant to exist in an inverted state for very long, right? The entire equilibrium is built around the idea of being right side up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a horrible story. They made a movie about it also.
Really?
About 10 years ago, I think. I should look up the name of the movie. But regardless, it's a horrible thing. And I only bring this up because it came up in my YouTube feed one day, and I was like, oh, what is this? And then I watched it, and I was just sort of horrified, and then just in my thoughts, for the rest of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And then it screwed up my algorithm, and now I just get spelunking gone wrong videos.
Yeah. Well, you were like, this really messed me up. I couldn't get out of my head. Hey, Brian, watch this.
Yeah, basically.
You pulled it up.
Yeah.
I was like, what's this, Zachy? I trust anything you put in front of me.
Jeez. Yeah. So the movie is called The Last Descent.
Okay.
And yeah, and I have not seen it. I saw the trailer for it, but I was like, I don't want to watch that.
Yeah, I see it now.
It's
I
from
can't
about,
even imagine. Like, there's just no. Like he would just be such a downer.
Yeah,
What it is.
if you know that he didn't make it at the end, it would seem like not a great way to spend my time, my emotional capital,
Yeah, yeah.
But obviously the story itself is very sad because he seemed like a genuinely decent guy, and I can't imagine being in that situation knowing you're not going to see your child who's going to be born. My brain stops working,
Well, there you go, Rob. Now everybody is sharing in that, in your misery.
Sorry. But thank you for your comment, Rob.
Yeah.
Hey, here's one we got from Tyler Kloster, who listened to our episode talking about Karate Kid Legends. Remember Karate Kid Legends?
Yeah, doesn't that feel like ages ago?
It feels like it came out 5 years ago. It feels like it came out before the 2010 Jaden Smith movie. I think it's going to top out at about $50 million stateside. Which I think they spent very little on it. So I guess you take the win.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully it's one of those things that they've had it structured in such a way through streaming and whatever, it all kind of pans out. But
yeah, well, and I was thinking, I was like, did Cobra Kai actually kill the box office prospects for this movie?
Why is that?
Because Cobra Kai conditioned people to think of Karate Kid as a streaming thing.
Oh, that's a good point. I don't know.
Right?
Yeah.
Obviously Sony looked at the fandom for Cobra Kai and was like, hey, we should branch this out.
Yeah.
And maybe the lesson is, well, it worked there. I saw Scott Mendelson, who's a box office reporter. He made the point when referring to Karate Kid Legends. He said it's the same as NBC seeing the streaming success of Suits and being like, let's make Suits LA.
Mm-hmm.
And then that show comes on and it gets canceled after one season.
Right.
Like something that's uniquely fitting into its streaming platform. Maybe it's just what people are actually have become conditioned to is, no, this is the thing that gets fed to me in my magic box in my house.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. I mean, for me, Karate Kid is theatrical.
That's right.
But yeah, I'm sure a lot of the audience of Cobra Kai, they associate it with streaming. And I'm just trying to think in my head. So with something like Stranger Things, if they put out a theatrical Stranger Things movie, would I feel compelled to see it? I don't know if I would, honestly, because I'm used to Stranger Things being a thing I see on Netflix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the 2010 Karate Kid was the biggest hit in the entire franchise, box office wise.
Mm.
And you'd think that the calculus there was, well, obviously there's a lot of nostalgia for that movie from the people who grew up with that.
Mm-hmm.
So there's your Mr. Han, and then there's the Cobra Kai nostalgia. There's your Daniel.
Yeah.
And the algorithm certainly says, hey, that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. On paper.
Right. But I think what it comes down to is people just being like, well, I don't feel the need to rush out to see this for whatever reason.
Right.
Even though it is a perfectly cromulent movie.
Yeah, we agreed.
Right. But here's what Tyler said. He says, I saw the movie today and enjoyed it for what it was. It didn't reinvent the wheel by any means, and if there has been a less developed and nuanced villain in a sports movie than here, I haven't seen it.
I
would agree with that. But it was an entertaining, feel-good movie, and the crowd laughed a lot, and the mid-credit scene was the biggest roar I've heard in a theater this year.
Wow.
No spoilers there. However, shouldn't the caption of the opening scene have said 1985 instead of 1986? The Karate Kid Part 2 was set in the summer of 1985 after he won the All-Valley Tournament in December of 1984 and before he successfully defended his title the following December. How can I believe in anything anymore? and I'll be damned. I think that's right.
Yeah, no, that completely makes sense. Let's get Sony on the horn.
That type of thing does bug me when it's like a very simple thing to just double check.
Yeah. Well, then you kind of want to ask the person who did choose the incorrect year, like, how did you come up with that?
Well, it's obviously the year that the movie came out.
Oh, I see.
I agree with Tyler. I think there's no point believing in things anymore.
Right.
If the Karate Kid franchise lies to us, what else lies to us, Brian? Here's a note we got from Charles Ogan, who listened to our Karate Kid Part 2 commentary. And he says, I thought I'd share an anecdote about my experience seeing the film back in the day. In 1986, I was 16 and decided to take my girlfriend to see the Karate Kid Part 2 at Ogden 6 Theaters.
Whoa.
Brian. Hey, look at that.
Hey, we've been there.
We have many times. I remember us both laughing at Daniel's abrupt and completely off-screen breakup with Allie, the ridiculousness of the drum technique, and howling when Chosen ziplined into his fight with Daniel. While we did enjoy Karate Kid 2, I guess it didn't quite live up to the original. I think most people would agree with that. He says, when the movie ended, I decided we should sneak into another screening, taking advantage of the classic multiplex setup at Ogden 6, which I'm sure you and Brian both remember well. Oh, I do.
Oh, yeah.
I can picture it in my mind.
Same.
For those of you who don't know, Ogden 6 was like the second run theater in the, where was it? Like the Naperville area? Where was that? Naperville, right?
Nearing it, right? Or on the borders of it, maybe. But it was like a dollar theater, right? Where
That's right.
These movies had been out for a couple months already. And so before they were on video, they'd show here, and it was only $1.
Yeah, that's right. And Charles says, for those who have never had the pleasure, Ogden 6 had 3 screens on one side, a central concessions area, and 3 more screens on the other. Are you picturing it, Brian?
Dude, it's taking me back. I mean, I remember seeing That Thing You Do there. I remember, yeah.
I watched Jurassic Park there.
Wow.
Our choices that day were a horror movie, watching Karate Kid 2 again, or the animated Transformers movie. Having just endured Daniel San's latest adventure, I needed a palate cleanser, and the slasher flick wasn't going to cut it, so I insisted that we go see Transformers. I think I said something like, let's go see that kiddie movie Transformers. It'll be fun. Secretly, I just wanted to see animated robot-on-robot violence. We successfully snuck in, and honestly, watching Optimus Prime and Megatron battle to the death was far more satisfying than watching Daniel win the drum technique. I will agree with that. Absolutely. Somewhere during the second act, around the time Hot Rod accepted the matrix of leadership to become Rodimus Prime, a few innocent teenage kisses were exchanged. Who knew the original Transformers movie had that kind of effect? In any case, while I went to see Karate Kid 2 for the glory of love, after all was said and done, I walked out a winner. I guess you could say I, or the Transformers, had the touch.
That was beautiful. That's great.
Young love, Brian. I love it.
Very good.
Hey, we also have some headlines.
Extra, extra!
What a scoop!
All right. So as of yesterday, tickets for Superman are on sale.
Oh, do you have yours?
I got tickets for the Tuesday night screening sponsored by Amazon Prime.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah.
But I didn't do that. Can you do that through your A-list, or is that like a special?
That's a special thing. And I, being somebody who only uses my A-list usually, I got 3 tickets for $80, and I'm like, mother effer.
Wow. Holy cow.
Well, this is why people don't go to the movies.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Well, anyway, okay. No, but I see that a lot. I get the emails, advanced tickets for Superman or Jurassic World or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm always like, I can't think that far ahead.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I may go by myself. I may see it with some people. I don't know. Like, I'll know that week. So it's, I have a hard time doing that.
You live life on the edge. I respect that.
Yeah.
You don't need to follow people's rules. I've had it up to here with your rules.
When we get the freaking guns.
However, it has already gotten the most pre-sales of the entire year.
Hey, that's good. Because there was a lot of like early tracking, just interest, right, through internet travels and whatnot. And it was not tracking as high as I think people are expecting. But I like that. I'm glad. I'm happy.
It seems like there's some enthusiasm, but in the ramp up to that, they did drop a new, presumably final trailer.
Mm-hmm.
So, in my opinion,
yes,
I don't like this new trailer.
Do tell. Okay, wasn't expecting that.
I'm already on board. Like, I don't think it's not making me be like, oh, I'm not going to watch this movie. But I'm just like, I don't like the tone. I don't like it feels too slight for me.
I'm having a hard time understanding the tone, if I'm being honest.
In this new trailer.
Or just what this is going to be.
Yeah.
I'm in the bag. It doesn't matter what the trailers are. I'm still going in optimistic for a great Superman movie.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. I think there's a lot that I do like. Every time I see him stepping in for someone, I mean, it's in every trailer, but when he steps behind that girl and protects her from all those metal things flying everywhere, we get the camera going around that car, revealing him holding a building from falling on her, all that stuff. I'm like, yes. I'm not loving all the fisheye.
Yeah, right? There's a lot of that.
Very odd. And I know I swear that I wouldn't do this as much. I'm trying to be a little bit more forgiving, realizing that we live in 2025 and movies look in 2025 differently than they did in 1995. That's fine. I am Brian. But it just kind of has that artificial feel, like a synthetic sort of feel to the backgrounds and some elements that makes it feel a little video gamey. And that's kind of not what I really want. And actually, I have a big question for you.
Yes.
What do you think about the teeth getting knocked out and hitting the camera?
I did not like that shot. Didn't
Very
like it at all.
weird.
Yeah, I didn't like it. It was distracting.
It feels like kind of a weird early 2000s superhero gimmicky kind of thing, doesn't it?
Yeah, or it calls to mind, in Superman Returns, where you have the where the bullet like smashes on his eye.
It evoked the exact same thought in my head. Yep.
Yeah, the other thing I'll be this is just from the trailer, but I'm not crazy about Nicholas Holt's Lex Luthor voice.
Yeah, not as commanding or something.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying he needs to sound like Gene Hackman or something, but he just it sounds very slight, and I'm like, well, I'm sure I'll grow into it, I'll get used to it. But those are just sort of like little pricks I'm feeling,
I agree. I'm more enjoying like little moments, like the guy, Superman's like holding something up or struggling or been beaten up, and someone's like, "Stop messing around," and he's like, "I'm not messing around. I'm doing important stuff." Like out of breath.
Yeah.
I was like, that's funny. I like that. I want like a real personality from him.
Yeah. So I feel like I think Corn Sweat's got this in the bag. I think he'll be fantastic. I just from what I see, a lot of the other stuff, I think I'm curious to see the world that James Gunn creates in the movie, and I trust that James Gunn has enough experience with this. Like he knows what he's doing. So I have no reason to think that it's going to be bad, but I'm curious, Yeah.
So, well, I had those feelings, and I almost feel relief or something that you feel the same way. But still very much excited. Like not even like going in cautiously optimistic. I'm still very excited for this movie.
Yeah, I'm anytime we get a new Superman movie, that's going to be special, for me. I actually, like I told Amina, I'm like, look, I got tickets for the two of us. Let's just have the kids watch the baby. Let's go see Superman together. So we'll see.
What was her response?
She I think it's a matter of, does she trust the children to watch?
Right.
That's really what it comes down to,
Right.
The baby is going to be a year old.
Wow.
Isn't that nuts?
That
coming
is
up and they grow up fast, Brian. I know.
Yeah.
That's something I'm grappling with lately.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's June 11th, the week of June 11th. But in addition to that, a few weeks before that, we have F1.
Yeah, which I wanted to mention because there is a new trailer, and it's not really worth playing because, it's a lot of race car driving and everything that we've seen before. It still looks very kinetic and exciting. But what was interesting about this is Apple put out this haptic trailer for F1, meaning if you watch it on your iPhone, when your phone is on silent and you get a text and it like kind of buzzes in your hand, much like 4DX at Regal Theaters, where you have a movie and they've programmed a chair to, buzz and vibrate and punch you in the back, coordinated with what's happening on screen. This trailer, when cars rev, your phone buzzes like it's revving. Like and as things zip by, your phone goes zoom, zoom. And
So as we are speaking, my phone is in my hand. So you sent this to me yesterday. You're like, check this out. And I
you haven't
played
done it yet?
and nothing happened. Yeah. And I was like, why is this? And then it's like, oh, you need, OS, like, whatever, 18 point something. And I'm like, I clearly have not done many updates in a while because it's like
sure.
14 something or other. And I'm like, okay, I guess I've been putting this off. So when we started recording, I was like, okay, I'm going to update the OS on my phone now. And now it's bricked. So thanks, Brian. No. So I'm going to experience this trailer, the haptic trailer, as we are talking.
Okay. You're starting it right now?
I'm hitting play.
Okay.
Right now. Okay. So
describe what you're seeing and feeling.
So, there's the Jerry Bruckheimer logo, and Brad Pitt's getting. Wait! I'm feeling. He's in this car. The phone is vibrating ever so slightly.
Uh-huh.
The engine is revving, and the phone is shaking. And yeah, here we go. Look at that. Oh wow! Look at that.
Are you noticing like variations though? Like it's not just the phone like uniformly buzzing, right? It's kind of calibrated to the images you're seeing.
It is. Yeah, absolutely. Wow, I'll tell you, holding this phone in my hand is as close as I've ever felt to being in an F1 car. sitting in my house on my iPhone, as watching this car crash into the sidewall there. It's exactly the same. Me and the F1 driver, we are one.
You're making me realize I don't love the 4DX experience. I just find it kind of distracting. But I did watch the original 1996 Twister.
Okay.
That way. And I was like, okay, that's what this is made for. This was
right.
Really fun. And you're making me think, oh, maybe F1. Maybe F1 would be a good one to do that way.
Okay. Well, first of all, this movie, this is another one, right? I'm watching it in the theater anyway, like immediately.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to admit, the novelty of this trailer that's vibrating my phone this way and that is pretty fun, I gotta say.
Yeah, oh well, good. I'm glad I got to hear your reaction in real time.
Yeah,
but I was just impressed. My memory was there's two cars on screen and they have kind of the flames coming out of the back, and I remember feeling each flame.
Yeah, like, it's amazing.
Like each burst. Like my phone was already vibrating because the cars are idling, but then with each like boom, boom, I felt it on different areas of my phone, the blasts, and I thought it was pretty amazing.
I mean, it is quite novel, this notion of the haptic trailer.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to see more. I want to see what they do with them,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wow. my hands are like tingling,
Very cool. Well, it's just interesting. I don't know, like finding new ways to use the things we already have.
I am intrigued.
Yeah.
The movie, this is like, are we entering like our old man era now? Because we're like, Brad Pitt racing, sign me up,
Well, I think we had talked about this.
I don't know about this Superman movie with the teeth flying. I don't like that sort of thing. Just give me some of that Brad Pitt racing.
Along those lines, and we've kind of covered this territory, but some people that I play Cinematrix with, we use sneakers for one of the answers. And someone was like, I love Robert Redford in that movie, like older Robert Redford. And I looked it up out of curiosity, and Brad Pitt is older now than Robert Redford was in Sneakers as older Robert Redford. So yeah, like to my eyes, I'm like, it's Brad Pitt in a race car movie. Like, what about it? You know what I mean? But like for your kids, it's like, it's old man Brad Pitt in a dad movie.
In a dad movie, yeah.
Right.
I think we talked about it before about how they're doing a Greyhound sequel.
Oh yes, the Tom Hanks submarine.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, yep.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Sign me up.
You're like, I got to tell my dad. I'm like, I'm going to watch this with my boys.
Yeah. Down bubble.
So F1, that's coming at the end of this month, I think, right?
Oh yeah, well, that's coming up. Yeah,
coming up soon.
Been seeing those trailers for a very long time.
Yeah, well, I will say it is an Apple film, but I'm glad that it is full on theatrical.
Oh man, yeah. Oh, that would be such a waste.
right?
to put this.
Well, I think Apple learned their lesson with the 1-2 pantsing of Napoleon and Killers of the Flower Moon.
That was theatrical, wasn't it?
Right, but they were very limited, right? And it's kind of like you gotta make theatrical experiences that people are gonna want to show up for.
Yeah, make it less about check this thing out for a couple weeks and then
right
an excuse to subscribe to Apple TV Plus.
Right? Because
Really.
both of those were essentially intended as loss leaders.
Right.
And it was more loss than anything, right? And I think I fully believe, like, well, Napoleon was basically like, oh, this is the trailer for the longer version.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
This 3-hour movie is the trailer for the 5-hour one that we're going to have on the streaming service. And it's like, well, I don't know. I think somebody like Scorsese is going to be in a position of saying, well, I want to make my movie the way I'm going to make it. You can't stop me. And it's like, that's fair. But I think there are different economic interests when you have a streamer versus theatrical. And I think it would have played better theatrically if it was trimmed down to reflect. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think people are like 3.5 hours. I'm not going to see that.
Yeah.
And I do think, as I like that movie, I think you could have trimmed it down.
Yeah, I mean, I loved it, and I read the book. I thought the movie did a great job, but I mean, Frank, I have no notes personally, but like I can see for putting something out in the theaters and trying to make it more palatable. Generally speaking, yeah, 3.5 hours is a long time.
That's a commitment, you know.
Yeah.
But regardless,
but then again, if it was a Netflix documentary that was 4-hour episodes,
you'd be like, sign me up.
Like, yeah, like everybody would be like, oh yeah, well, I binged it in one night and then started something else.
Yeah, well, we got lots of problems. Hey, here are some folks who passed away, and I wanted to mention while we have an opportunity to talk.
Mm-hmm.
So here's somebody I suspect you don't know who this is, but Peter David died. He was a legendary comic book writer. And certainly from during the time I was reading comic books in the 80s and 90s, I mean, he was one of those names where if he was writing a comic, I would read it.
Oh wow, okay.
A tremendous writer. He was also a novelist, whatever. But he had a witty approach to character interaction and really intricate plot setup. He had a run on the Incredible Hulk for about 10 years, which is one of the most definitive runs on that character, right? He also created Spider-Man 2099, who is, the character that we see in the second Spider-Verse movie.
Yeah.
And he wrote Aquaman. He wrote X Factor, and I mean a whole bunch of characters. But he had been dealing with health issues for several years, and ultimately, he'd had strokes and whatever, and it just became too much. But he was 68, which again, I say this a lot, but it's not that old, right?
No.
It's not so old that you should be dying almost destitute, right? Because he was in a situation where his family had to set up a GoFundMe, to pay for his medical bills, and the thought I had, it was tragic all the way around, because this was somebody who had a meaningful, measurable impact on my life in terms of reading his work and my concept of shaping story and humor,
Mm-hmm.
But think about this. In the last Avengers movie, we have the Professor Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
You know who created Professor Hulk? Peter David. He did it in his Hulk comics.
Wow.
The merger of Bruce Banner and the Hulk. Spider-Man 2099. Who created him? That's Peter David. Aquaman, as played by Jason Momoa. You know who's the first person to do the long hair and the beard? And
Really?
That was Peter David. And think about this. Aquaman is the most successful DC Comics movie ever made, period.
That's crazy for starters, but
right.
Yeah,
right?
Wow.
And Avengers Endgame, we know how successful that was. Spider-Man, the Spider-Verse movies, and I'm just like, how is it that the person who was an essential component in those films' success was not looked after by these companies?
Completely. Yeah, that's a shame.
Right. I mean, it's more than a shame. It's disgraceful.
Yeah.
It really is. That should not have happened. And yet we hear this again and again when it comes to the creators, the comic book creators who are responsible for this stuff. They're given a ticket to the premiere and expected to say thank you.
Yeah, that reminds me of in the screenwriting world. I mean, at least in the WGA, it's like you create characters.
Yeah.
Say this is not a great example, but like Lethal Weapon, right? Where you have Shane
Right.
Black creating, Riggs and Murtaugh, right? And then you have Lethal Weapon 4, which Shane Black's not involved in,
Right.
but he still gets a credit. He still gets a little piece.
Yeah.
Characters created by.
That's
You
right.
wouldn't have that movie without what he created, and
Even
it's
the television
acknowledged.
series.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's shameful that that's not the same for these people who are created these characters and scenarios and situations that are making buku bucks right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, during his lifetime, Marvel was putting out hardcover collections of his writings. So, there are 5 hardcover volumes of his Incredible Hulk run. I'm looking at them right now. They're on my shelf. His Spider-Man 2099, his Aquaman. It has been collected. I have my own copies. My point is, these are evergreen comics,
Right?
and I hope people listening to this who maybe don't know him will seek him out. Because they will give you enjoyment.
That's great. Well, I'm glad you put a spotlight on him.
Yeah,
I think a lot of us will enjoy digging into these.
This one hit me hard. Not gonna lie, he was somebody who really was formative for me growing up.
Yeah,
and he had a lot more years of creativity left.
Yeah. Wait, so what happened? You said it was.
Yeah, he had been dealing with health struggles for the last several years. Just he had strokes and whatnot. His ultimate cause of death was a heart attack, but it was after literally years of his body just failing, kidney failure, just one thing after the other.
Yeah.
I mean, eventually, I would imagine that in addition to just everything that you're going through, there's the stress of how am I supposed to pay for this?
Right, which is terrible.
Right.
That's something you should have to think about when you're experiencing all that.
Nobody should have to deal with that. And certainly somebody who has given these corporations as much success thanks to his ideas, his brain power, should not have had to suffer like that.
Yeah.
So Peter David, he will be missed. Also, hey, Brian, Alf Clausen passed away.
Yeah. Who was the musical composer for The Simpsons for 27 years.
Amazing.
I mean, also moonlighting Alf, which is kind of amazing.
That's the first time I heard of him was seeing his name in Alf and being tickled by that.
Yeah. But I mean, obviously everybody knows The Simpsons is a hugely formative show for us in so many ways, and because we're so immersed in it, we've been so immersed in it for the majority of our lives. I mean, his music, the hours we must have listened to it, and it's just, sometimes it's hard to appreciate, I think, a good score that isn't calling attention to itself.
Right.
A lot of times you watch a comedy, I'll like watch a comedy film or something, and the score tanks it. Because the score is trying too hard. The score is telling you it's funny.
Right.
And it's almost like you could commend Alf Clausen for maybe not even like, noticing all the things he was doing, but he set the tone of that show, the wackiness of that world, without going over some sort of line where it's just calling attention to like, isn't this wacky kind of score? It's just, it did exactly what it was supposed to do and made that show, contributed to making that show as brilliant as it is. And I really, it's sad that he passed, but it's really great to recognize him.
Yeah, well, and I think he even spoke about how initially he was reticent about doing the show until he was told he didn't want to do a cartoon. He's like, no, and he was told it's not going to be a cartoon. Treat it like it's just a regular sitcom. And again, I think we just sort of take for granted what he did because it's just so woven in with the identity of that show.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And I remember a few years back when the show parted ways with him.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a bitter parting. He sued them, as I recall.
Mm-hmm.
What they essentially just wanted to do it via computer.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to assume. I don't exactly know what their thinking was, but part of it was probably like, look, we've got 27 years worth of material. And like, do we need to continue paying someone to generate new stuff? Is there like a way we can sort of recycle what we have or generate something that just sort of does the trick?
Yeah.
Which, I mean, the way that they've kept the actors on, like I would look at him as equally important in the voice of that show. And it feels a little disrespectful to me.
Well, that seems to be the theme of this current discussion we're having is that the corporations don't care.
Yeah.
But we care. Alf Clausen, the contribution that cannot be adequately measured up, but it is remarkable what he was able to achieve.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Actually, while we're talking about musicians, Brian Wilson.
Yeah. This was wild. I mean, Brian Wilson, what a life. I mean,
icon,
in every sense of the word. And yes, absolute icon. I mean, a true musical genius. Something that always stuck with me was in the 60s, he and the Beatles openly spoke about how they pushed one another creatively. Like Brian Wilson would write a Beach Boys song and Paul McCartney would go, "Oh crap." And then be like, well, I got to make something as good. And then he would. And then Brian Wilson would hear that and go, "Oh, crap." And like these two geniuses pushing one another and giving us some of the greatest pop music ever created. It's amazing. I mean, he was writing, like his melodies, his chord progressions. I mean, things as grand as God Only Knows to something as poppy as Help Me Rhonda. They're all brilliant. Mm-hmm. The hooks of those songs, they're just songwriting marvels. So it's, a true genius and crazy. 82,
82 and a life well lived, a legacy that will live on.
Yeah. Well, and
have you seen Love and Mercy, the movie about him from about 10
literally
years
what I was just about to say. I was going to say I want to call out this movie, Love and Mercy. Yes. Well, I'll let you go ahead.
Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah. It stars Paul Dano and John Cusack both as Brian Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not your. I mean, it defies the Dewey Cox.
Oh, 100%.
Tropatron.
Yeah.
And I appreciate it, I think, most for that,
Absolutely. I mean, it takes place in two different eras, and it covers, I mean, he had a lot of mental health struggles, and he also had some people who were not being very helpful to him and taking advantage of him in certain points of his life. And he was also in the 60s creating incredibly brilliant music. Like, it's so many things in his lifetime, and this movie does a really good job of covering all of them. Right. And it through the conceit of having half the movie be in the 60s and half of it in the 80s.
Right.
Yeah.
Terrific movie, worth a look.
Definitely.
Oh, hey, here's another. This person just passed away yesterday as we record this. Harris Yulin.
Yeah, you sent me this.
So Harris Yulin, on this show, anybody who knows, we celebrate character actors.
Mm-hmm.
The Hey That Guy entourage, and Harris Yulin is truly in the Hey That Guy Hall of Fame.
When you sent it, I didn't know the name, and then I clicked on the link and I was like, oh, yep.
Right?
Yep.
So tremendous character actor. He's in Scarface. He's in Ghostbusters 2. He's the judge in Ghostbusters 2.
Mm-hmm.
Shut up. So funny, so brilliant. He is in Cutthroat Island. He's in Clear and Present Danger. He's great in that, alongside Henry Czerny, who we've just been celebrating. Another great Hey That Guy.
Yeah.
Rush Hour 2, he was in that. Just somebody who embodied a type, and you would just plug him in, and boy, he would give you exactly what you needed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And really, the work that they do goes unsung to some extent, and yet it's so essential.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, when you populate your film, if it's you only have two like magnetic leads, your world doesn't feel robust and full and memorable. But when you surround those people with incredible character actors, the whole film has a personality. Every scene is bursting with personality, right?
That's
they
right.
really lift those things up.
Yeah, he had been a consistent presence on television. He was on 24. He played the character Roger Stanton.
Man, that rings such a bell. It's been a while, but I'm certain I
I forget which season that was, but
Yeah.
he's also in probably one of the best Star Trek episodes of all time. He's in an episode of Deep Space Nine from the first season called Duet.
Okay.
And this is I'm gonna one of these days I'm gonna twist your arm and make you watch this, just like I made you watch that Next Generation episode recently,
which I loved. Yeah.
I suspect you'll enjoy this one too, and it is. I mean, it's a showcase for the guest star who is Harris Yulin as a Cardassian character, and so he's acting under this elaborate appliance, and he's absolutely tremendous in it.
Okay.
One last passing I wanted to note very quickly, and this is Chris Robinson has died. Brian, Chris Robinson. You know Chris Robinson?
I'm not sure.
So Chris Robinson was an actor on General Hospital. And you say, okay, well, I didn't watch General Hospital. I didn't watch General Hospital. I don't know how many people listening watch General Hospital, but he had a long career on that. But Chris Robinson, who just passed away at 86, his little stick pin in time, his little historical footnote all to himself, he was the very first actor to say, I'm not a doctor, but I play one on TV.
No, really?
Isn't that something?
Was that? I mean, you hear that parodied so much. Where does that come from? Is it an ad?
He was the spokesperson for Vicks products.
How funny!
So these TV commercials from the mid '80s.
Wow,
So it was
I'm
like
looking
Vicks,
at him now.
Vicks cough syrup.
Yeah.
So I'm not a doctor, but I do play one on TV, and that became something that was just absorbed into the cultural bloodstream, and it is now part of our forever lexicon.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
Right. So Chris Robinson, a long and distinguished career, but if nothing else, he will be remembered forever because of his contribution of that phrase. Having performed it, he didn't write it, but still.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that would be so incredible and special to have something that you said that people, know you for saying that lives on like that.
Lives on, and it will live on likely for a long, long time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So hey, here's some other news, Brian.
All right, what's that?
So this isn't strictly movie related, but it's movie adjacent, and I thought this was relevant. I saw an article. This is courtesy of Futurism.com, which is talking about how people are becoming obsessed with ChatGPT and spiraling into severe delusions.
Yeah. Let's talk about that. You sent me this, and it's really kind of haunting.
It really is. So I read this and I was like, this is good. What is idiots doing now? You kind of, you're like, oh, I'm going to laugh at some morons is my thought when I hit the link.
Okay.
And then by the end, again, I was just kind of staring at a corner in the wall, pondering not only my fate, but that of humanity.
Yeah. Well, so tell me, what's the sort of thing that these people are falling prey to here?
So we have a situation where the interface of ChatGPT, which provides the illusion of a person on the other side, has become so enveloping, so inviting to people who maybe feel a lack in their own lives that they have formed parasocial attachments to ChatGPT.
Okay, so I think you might have said this in our text exchange, but it's like the movie Her.
It is like the movie Her.
Right? So someone who...
Minus ScarJo, minus at least that the idea of hey, ScarJo's talking to me with her sultry tones.
So that's a good point. Is this like text, or is there an actual voice speaking back?
This is text, as far as I know, at this moment.
Interesting.
I mean, we have a situation where, I'm just reading the quote here. More and more similar accounts keep pouring in from the concerned friends and family of people suffering terrifying breakdowns after developing fixations on AI. Many said the trouble had started when their loved ones exchanged in a chatbot engaged a chatbot in discussions about mysticism, conspiracy theories, or other fringe topics, because systems like ChatGPT are designed to encourage and riff on what users say, they seem to have gotten sucked into dizzying rabbit holes in which the AI acts as an always-on cheerleader and brainstorming partner for increasingly bizarre delusions.
Oh, man.
And
wow.
I mean,
Yeah.
this is... So let me just say this. This is not merely abstract. I personally know of someone, it's not me, just to clarify, who
It's not me, is it?
it's not you either. Yeah, maybe it is, Brian. I think this is an intervention. I know of somebody who says ChatGPT knows me better than anyone, even my wife.
Huh. So this person, like after dinner, will then just strike up a conversation, like type in, "Let me tell you about my day. How are you?"
It is like Joaquin Phoenix and Her.
I have so many things swirling through my mind.
Yeah.
All of it. Kind of a fascination. Like, wow, that's amazing, sort of, but like also, wow, that is incredibly sad.
Yeah.
I'm really scared because, it's, there are so many people out there that have delusions.
Yeah.
And without this in their lives, like hopefully there's people to bring them down, talk to a family member or a friend, be like, hey, I know you've been talking about this lately, but let's talk about that. Let's
like down to earth, not
down to earth. Yes. But with this, if they can kind of sneak away with their phone, something we all have in our pockets, and it's encouraging every thought in their head.
Yeah.
Ugh, I don't know, man.
Well, see, this is the thing, right? And by the way, this person is a reasonably intelligent individual,
Sure.
not wacky that I know of. You know what I mean? So it shows anybody susceptible to this. And my thought is, there's no way out of this. That's my immediate thought, right? I'm like, we are in it. We are in the pot that is boiling.
I feel like for you and I, in the history of this show, we always have like some sort of marker where we're like, there's no putting the toothpaste back in the tube.
Yep.
And for a long time, it was social media.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And like, maybe we weren't ready for that and the, mental ramifications of it. And now here we are with something new.
And it's doing the same thing, right? Because social media, I can say whatever thing, and X number of people will hit like on it, and those likes just feed my ego.
Sure.
Right. And so I feel validated. Well, now you've got ChatGPT that's not just hitting like out of courtesy, but it's like, oh, go on. They're leaning forward and saying, oh, tell me more.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I mean, like that makes sense.
Right.
Like encouraging.
Exactly. And it doesn't matter what kind of nutty nonsense it is. Right. And that's the dilemma we have.
Mm-hmm.
Is ChatGPT, and I'm just using that as an example, but all of these AIs are only going to get more sophisticated.
Yeah.
Right. And this, like there in the creative fields, there's a lot of like consternation about the impact it's going to have. And I think what people are slowly reckoning with is the social stigma surrounding the use of AI is not going to last much longer.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's going to become normalized.
Well, and I feel like, excuse me, certainly in my creative circles, there is like a stigma. But when I talk to other people,
like non-creative types,
they generally speaking, they love it.
Oh yeah,
they use it for everything, and that's not to say that there aren't valuable applications for it. You know what I mean? Like I can recognize that, but it's just kind of fascinating how much people are using it and how many things are using it for. I didn't even realize. I mean, my cousin's son, he just graduated high school and he has like a landscaping business that he started up, and he was just showing me stuff and flyers that he makes and stuff. He's like, oh, I made this in ChatGPT. I was like, really? I'm like, why? Like, why don't you just make a flyer that has your rates on it? But it's just, they use it for everything.
Yeah.
Just everything.
Yeah, look, I mean, my perspective as an instructor right now, right? I mean, I've talked about it on the show. I'm dealing with this constantly, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
subjective assessments don't no longer have value as originally created.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can say write an essay and spend 2 weeks writing it, and they'll do it in 30 seconds, literally.
Now, how often do people do something like that and then take the effort to try to like tweak it a little bit to make it not as obvious? Does that even happen, or are people just at this point like, screw it?
Some people are very obvious to the point where it's insulting, and I can say, hey, no AI, I'm not giving you points for this, and I won't even get any pushback. So that's how transparent it is, you know?
Right.
I'd almost applaud them for taking the effort to tweak it and whatever, you know what I mean? Like here's what I'm struggling with, right? Look, I've been teaching long enough now that I remember when Wikipedia first started.
Yeah.
And the whole like, oh, don't use Wikipedia. And it's like, well, everybody uses it.
Yeah.
You know? And what I say to my students with regards to Wikipedia is like, I'm not going to say don't use it because you use it anyway and whatever. Like there's no point. But use it the right way. You know, there's a way to assess the information that you find on Wikipedia and, you know, exercise some critical thinking, follow the sources back and judge them accordingly, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, well, there is a way potentially to utilize ChatGPT as a partner in the process, right? And I don't know what that is yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I certainly don't think college students are remotely equipped to treat it as a conversation rather than a destination.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's just again, here. Your professor says, write me a 6-page essay. Here's a thing that'll do it for you instantly.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, I mean, this AI is causing real harm to the planet.
Yeah. Right.
The environmental collapse. Right. But it's like the story, you know, the box, you know, the button, you know,
that is so weird. That literally was running in the back of my mind. Yeah.
Right. Oh, well, there's some trees dying somewhere, but here's my essay.
Yeah, but I have a magic wand that creates a paper for me that even my professor knows I didn't write, but what's he going to do?
Yeah. Right. I mean, we are literally killing the planet.
Yeah.
So all of this stuff, I've said this to you, we probably over text. I'm like, we're in the prologue of a movie. I just don't know what movie it is.
I know. I think that all the time. I mean, you look at all these different points in history where they have a name, you know, and it's just like, and then all this ceased being, and then it became this. Like, we're in that moment. We're at the beginning. And I don't know whatever this gets called, I don't know what this is going to look like, but we're at the start of it.
Yeah. Anyway, this story crossed my radar, and I just found it worth at least having a conversation about. I think we're screwed. I think that's the
yeah.
I think big picture.
Conclusion?
But hey, at the very least, Brian, we may be screwed, but hopefully it won't be before we get to watch Spaceballs 2.
That's right.
And if it's not called The Search for More Money, I'll be very upset.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, Spaceballs, it's a joke, right? In Spaceballs 1 about sequels and merchandising and kind of riffing on Star Wars and all of that. And, you know, we never got one, but we did get, do you remember there was an animated series in the early 2000s that was on G4?
Friggin' awful.
Terrible. Yeah. So I never in my wildest imagination thought we would actually get a Spaceballs sequel, but this is Josh Gad, the actor. He had mentioned that this was something he was trying to develop and write.
Yeah.
And it turns out this is that thing, right? This is the Josh Gad project.
That's right. Yeah. So Mel Brooks is involved in that. He will be reprising his role as Yogurt.
Yep.
And hopefully President Scroob.
Yes.
But he's not directing it, and more importantly, we're bearing the lead here, right? We got Bill Pullman coming back as Lone Star, and Brian, Rick Moranis, making his first movie since 1997.
Now you have to imagine that the Ghostbusters sequels of late reached out to him.
That's what I'm saying. Brother turned down 1, 2, 3 Ghostbusters movies,
and
yet he decided this was worth his time.
Yeah. Well, and to be fair, I mean, the reason he left making movies was because his wife passed away and he decided to, focus on raising his kids.
Yeah, the most noble of goals, of course. However, again, he's had plenty of opportunities to show face.
Sure.
And instead, he's quietly accepted his place outside the spotlight. All the respect in the world, but that dark helmet beckoned.
You know what? I can picture it though. I mean, he would get like a colorful scene or two possibly in Ghostbusters, but here, it's a whole meal for him.
That's a good point.
I mean, that is a huge selling point for me. Right, having those actual people back instead of people like newer actors feeling like they're doing Spaceballs cosplay or something.
Right. I'm excited, man. Honestly, first of all, they did a little trailer with a not a trailer, but like a scroll a la a crawl a la Star Wars. Very funny.
Oh, it was hilarious. I mean, I don't have it all here, but I have a little bit where it basically says 38 years ago, there was only one Star Wars trilogy. But since then, there have been ... a prequel trilogy, a sequel trilogy, a prequel to the prequel. I'm skipping ahead a little bit. Countless TV spinoffs. And then it goes 2 Dunes, 7 Jurassic Parks, 2 Avatars plus 3 upcoming Avatars, making 5 Avatars. Like, it just keeps saying all the things that have happened.
First attempt at the DCU, second attempt at the DC.
Yes. It's genuinely hilarious.
Yeah, very funny. And then you get Mel Brooks looking quite spry in his 90s, I have to say.
98.
Amazing.
I gotta hesitate, but hurry.
I was thinking that exact thought. I was like, can we just shoot his portion as soon as possible, please?
Yeah, because it's supposed to come out in 2027.
Okay, so
let's go.
Yeah, let's. The clock's ticking. I appreciate that Mel Brooks presumably found Josh Gad's script worthy of putting his name on.
Yeah, well, his remark in the trailer, facing camera, cracked me up. It's so perfect. He said, "After 40 years, we asked, what do the fans want? But instead, we're making this movie."
Sign me up. We here at the MovieFilm Show, we celebrate Spaceballs, the original.
Oh, love it. Yeah.
So we need hope. We're looking for reason to hope.
I really, really want this to be good.
So is it actually going to be called The Schwartz Awakens?
Oh, is it? I don't know.
That would be funny, I guess.
That's funny. Yeah, I like it.
But hey, it is a big marketplace. Worth mentioning that Sinners 2 is still rocking and rolling in theaters, man.
Yeah. And it's one of the few movies I saw twice.
Yeah.
This year.
But did I tell you Amina and Hamza, they went to see it?
No? What do they think?
Yeah, they loved it. I had tried to I tried to tell both of them, like, just don't read anything about it. I said it's kind of like a scary movie, but they had no idea because the first hour is like this character drama about,
yeah,
post segregation life, whatever.
Yeah.
And then you have the horror movie, the vampires.
Then the horror movie begins. Yeah.
And clearly audiences are feeling much the same because it is the highest grossing original movie since 2010.
That is wild.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So that right behind it now is Inception from 2010.
Okay. Now I remember when Sinners opened several months ago now at this point, right? There was a lot of tut-tutting in the reporting. Like, well, it still has a long way to go to be profitable.
Yeah, it was performing really well, especially for an original film. But it was always, there was caveats.
Which is weird. It felt like, all right, what's your angle here?
Yeah, like why not celebrate this?
And I have to imagine that part of the rationale was that some of the POV was from the perspective of studio execs who were terrified that this movie was going to succeed.
Yes.
And the reason for that being that Ryan Coogler, the genius who is responsible for this film, was very farsighted in the deal that he made, which said that after, I think it's 25 years, he will own the movie.
Yeah.
So it will belong to him, not Warner Brothers. And the studios don't want deals like that because they want to own your creativity, lock, stock, and barrel.
Forever. They want to be making money off of like Casablanca. They want to, as long as people are watching movies, they want to keep making money off of the things that they invest in.
That's right. And this film is explicitly about, we want your songs.
Yeah. Yes.
So, of course, Ryan Coogler was going to ensure that they could not have his songs, so to speak.
Yeah, well put. Yeah.
So it makes me happy that it's doing well because I love Ryan Coogler and the movie is good. It makes me happy that there's an audience for original movies, and it makes me happy because F you, Warner Brothers. I mean, thank you for funding it. That's nice of you, but F you, Warner Brothers. Seriously.
Wait, I actually have to make a correction. I said that it was past Inception. That's not true. Inception is still in the lead, but that is from 2010. So it is.
And Sinners is nipping at its heels. I would not be surprised when all is said and done if Sinners ends up on top.
Yeah, so Inception is at 292 million, Sinners is at 275 million, and still climbing.
There's still juice in the tank. So I would not be surprised at all if we see re-release closer to once it leaves theaters around Halloween. They put it back in theaters.
Oh, totally.
Right.
Yeah. And I'll mention it because I know if I was listening, I'd be curious about this. But the top original films, I guess in the original, top 10 most recent.
So and by original, we mean not a sequel, not a pre-existing IP, not a novel, nothing. It sprang from the screenwriter of the film.
Yep. So we have, I'll just go through them quick. Inception, Sinners, Gravity, Dunkirk, A Quiet Place, Interstellar, Get Out, Us, Bridesmaids, The Heat, and La La Land.
The Heat. That is fascinating.
That is fascinating. And then, Bridesmaids in there is pretty amazing. You have 2 Jordan Peele movies, Get Out and Us.
Mm-hmm.
A whole lot of Christopher Nolan. Yeah.
So and I'm looking at this, the top grossing original films of the 2020s. Sinners is number 1, and then you have Sound of Freedom, Elemental, The Wild Robot. That's based on a book. I don't know. That feels like a mistake. Migration. Oh, that's interesting. That's that CG. Did you see that one? It's a CG animated movie with the.
Oh, was that the Ducks?
The duck movie, yeah.
No, it looked cute, but I didn't see it.
Yeah, it was fun. I liked it. That was the one where in my review I dropped a Magnificent Ambersons reference.
Oh, did you?
And I was quite happy about that because that was the quote that Rotten Tomatoes pulled. That they used that as their pull quote.
Oh, amazing.
I was quite proud of myself for that.
Yeah.
The 2020s have been kind of interesting. Migration, Nope, Free Guy, If, Smile, and The Lost City. And The Lost City made. Remember with Channing Tatum and
I was going to say Sandra Bullock, and then you have Sandra Bullock on that previous list with The Heat.
That's right.
Huh.
But the returns are much lower because The Lost City is 105 million. Right. So I think this speaks to many things. Look, I mean, we say this all the time. If you build it, people will come.
Mm-hmm.
People want to watch original stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And Sinners clearly spoke to that. So that is, I'm glad it's doing well. I hope the takeaway is not, oh, we need to make a sequel to Sinners.
Right.
Because I do not want that. I do not need it.
Right. And hey, look, if he's got a good idea, okay, fine. But like, what I really want is, hey, this guy comes up with good ideas. What else do you got?
That's exactly it.
Like Christopher Nolan, right?
I think that Coogler is very smartly putting himself in the Christopher Nolan, Jordan Peele, class where their names become the brand.
Totally.
And I think the Marvel folks are very smart to get in business with Coogler. I think they'll benefit from that.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a feeling that at this point, it's probably more beneficial for Marvel to have Coogler than the reverse.
Yeah.
Right. With that in mind, we're talking about box office returns, and I thought this was interesting just today. This is in Variety. It says Thunderbolts lost millions of dollars despite great reviews. Where does Marvel go next?
Yeah.
And I think this is fascinating, right? So we've got a piece here which says that 6 weeks after its release, Thunderbolts has cratered at the box office with 371 million globally. It's one of the lowest grossing installments in all of Disney's Marvel Cinematic Universe. If this is the second coming of Marvel, the superhero empire might need another reboot.
See, this is fascinating because we saw it, we both liked it.
Yeah.
I haven't thought about it much since.
Sure.
Like,
I saw it twice, I should say, and I enjoyed it both times.
Yeah, meaning I haven't like tracked its box office. I haven't been paying attention to how it's been performing. So I was like, oh, I thought people liked this one.
Well, what's interesting is that Captain America: Brave New World, which was widely viewed as lesser than Thunderbolts, performed better.
Huh.
Because that one topped 400 globally.
Yeah. Wow.
Right. And so this is kind of interesting because I think you and I both agree it's a good movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I liked it.
But I think what we see, I will say, I think this goes beyond there being like an antipathy towards Marvel. I don't think that's the case because it looks like Fantastic Four is tracking to do pretty well.
That will be a real interesting test.
I think so. I think if that one doesn't perform, then there's going to be some serious conversations happening at Disney.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But I think to me, this gets to something similar that we were just talking about with Karate Kid. I think that the availability of all these Marvel shows on streaming, some of them very good, some of them maybe not so good, but I think just the ready availability has made Marvel seem like something that you get to and you get to.
Sure.
I think that's my takeaway, is that the streaming shows on balance have been more harmful than beneficial.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, oversaturation.
Yeah. Because well, the Marvels that tanked completely.
Yeah.
Brave New World just did okay. This one, and I think they'll probably be fine in the long run with Thunderbolts because I do think people are going to end up watching it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the other thing, and this article mentions it too. I mean, the economics surrounding the MCU are different,
right?
Because there's just a longer runway for these things.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely, when you have this movie making money on par with like MCU movies from, the 2010s, early 2010s,
yeah,
that's at least concerning.
Yeah, because then that's just the vibe that's out there now. Is people like, oh, I guess people don't find these special anymore.
Right.
And I mean, they have almost 40 movies.
It's bananas.
I mean, that's another thing. How do you keep it fresh?
Yeah.
How many times can you do this kind of thing and make the thing that everyone wants to see, but not repeat yourself?
Mm-hmm.
That's a real challenge.
That's the thing. I think that when we look at next year, they've got Spider-Man 4 is in the summer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you got the Avengers in December. So that's sort of like they're putting all their chips on those movies.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. And one presumes both of those will do pretty well.
I think so.
Right. And so I think if Avengers Doomsday is following a similar track to Avengers Infinity War, it's going to be part one of a story that sets up, the next one. So what you're going to have is a lot of people who are going to be like, oh, I need to go back and watch the other ones.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happened. We're talking now phase one. That's what happened when the Avengers came out, the first Avengers.
Mm-hmm.
People who skipped Captain America and Thor, they went back and watched them.
Yeah.
So I think we may be in kind of a retrenched period, and I don't think that's the worst idea in the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Might be necessary.
Right. And I also think that, okay, if we're setting the ceiling lower for these movies, that's not the worst idea in the world either.
Yeah.
Like I think that if let's assume that it was always a stupid assumption anyway, but like $1 billion like that,
right.
That's a given. Well, that was always stupid.
Right.
But let's say we're setting, between 350 and 400 as the ceiling for these secondary tier movies,
mm-hmm.
which Thunderbolts is, let's face it.
Sure.
What's wrong with that?
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. I can see that might be hard to accept. Sure. When you were King of the Mountain for so long and by such a huge margin.
assume that your Avengers is going to do better. Assume that your Spider-Man is going to do better, right? Your marquee. Like whenever they get around to X-Men, that's going to be huge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But there should be different metrics. So if we're at a point where, hey, Marvel Studios, immediate hit, that's not a given, I would say that's not the worst idea.
See, but here's the thing. I completely agree with you entirely. But can you imagine trying to convince a board of that?
Right.
They're like, well, why does that one make this and this one doesn't? Like, figure it out. We have spoken.
I think that's true, right? Because when you think about it, Guardians of the Galaxy was as much of a gamble as Thunderbolts.
Yeah.
And it ended up spawning a franchise,
Right.
A very, very successful franchise. And so you have to be able to roll the dice on these things, like if we look at the output post Endgame, okay, Eternals wasn't great, but they rolled the dice on it.
Mm-hmm.
Shang-Chi I thought was pretty good. They rolled the dice on it. Like I'd rather that.
Same. And just out of curiosity, I just Googled it. I wanted to see Guardians of the Galaxy was the 10th film in the MCU. So we're still on a high.
Mm-hmm.
Like I still feel like, yeah, even if they did come out with something out of left field right now, it would be pretty hard to make everyone. We're just in a different moment.
They're going to have to win back the audience, clearly.
Yeah.
So, you know what that means is they got all the marbles are resting on Avengers Doomsday.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Right. I mean, if that one, and this is talk about the worst situation to be in. I mean, you are competing with yourself, right?
Yeah.
And not just because it's Avengers, but you've got the Russos back. You've got the same writers back. You've got Robert Downey. So, make me feel like Avengers Endgame did.
Mm-hmm.
Well, good luck.
I know. I hope so.
I mean, I'm rooting for them. I want them to do well.
Yeah, because I want to have that experience again too.
Yeah, and I think that what we are seeing is there's a shuffling of how the TV side is going to do stuff. So they're not going to try to be so tied in, like they have Daredevil Born Again, and that's kind of doing its own thing. It's not really connected to the movies.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's good.
Yeah.
I think this is the problem, right? And this goes to Star Wars too, right? Like you and I, we've discussed this, and I suspect we will more. What's going to happen with this Mandalorian movie?
I'm so curious,
right? Like honestly, I suspect that unless it really blows people's hair back, I think it's just going to do okay.
I think it's going to be like this, like a Thunderbolts-y kind of situation.
You think so?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, unless it's really exceptional,
Yeah. But it could have that issue that you're talking about where it's like, oh, wait, no, I watched Grogu at home.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, right? Is the big appeal of these streaming shows is, they look just like the movies. And I worry that now it's like, you watch the movie and be like, it looks just like the show,
Wow, that's a real monkey paw kind of situation. I remember that growing up when I would watch dramas on TV, and I would always think, like, why can't they make them look like movies? I mean, they're using the same tools, the cameras, lights, whatever. Like, it used to bother me. Like, why does it look like TV?
Mm-hmm.
And you're so right. Now TV looks like movies. So do movies feel special?
I think that, and this is something we've said a lot. You got to increase the scarcity if you want people to value when the stuff is released in theaters.
Totally.
I don't care what it is, whether it's Star Trek or Star Wars is Marvel stuff. I mean, that's one thing the James Bond folks did right.
Yeah.
Which let's see what Amazon does with that.
Yeah, for a while. Yeah.
Let's see how well this ages. What I just said.
Yeah.
But it's a developing story, so I guess we will track it in the weeks and months ahead.
Yeah.
I think it's a good place to leave this discussion, though. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I will say I forgot to mention a movie that I watched, Friendship with Tim Robinson.
Oh, man, I've been wanting to watch that.
And there's a line in there where he's talking to his family about something to do that night. And he's like, do you guys want to see the new Marvel? I hear it's nuts. Like, it's just such coming out of his mouth, like, we should see the new Marvel. It's nuts.
Did you like the movie, though?
I did, yeah.
Oh, man,
very offbeat, little dark, but totally his humor.
I have booked a ticket for the last few weeks, and I just something keeps coming up, so it's a little upsetting to me.
Yeah. You'll I think you're gonna like it. It's not as the show. I think you should leave is I wouldn't call it like bright or happy or anything, but it's Detroiters is very much. This is a little darker.
Okay.
But it's fun, and it's just fun being in a theater with people laughing,
That's a good feeling.
Yeah. So
well, hey, I think that we have covered a lot of ground.
We have. Yeah, this is great.
And the nice thing is that we've still got plenty of summer movies to discuss in the weeks ahead too. So
yep,
we'll be back next week with the commentary track.
Oh yeah.
I'm not going to say what it is. People gotta subscribe. So it shows up, in their feed, and they'll have hopefully a smile of a recognition, or a look of confusion. It could go either way.
I will say this is a movie I've never seen.
So there you go.
Yeah, I'm going to have to watch this one. And most people I talk to have seen this, so it's an older one.
This is one we have gotten many recommendations for.
Yep.
People have requested it many a time. So we're happy to be your dancing monkeys. It's what we do.
Oh, was that a hint?
Possibly. But hey, if you have any questions or comments for us, you can email us at moviefilmpodcast@gmail.com. You can also like on our Facebook page, facebook.com/moviefilmpodcast, and message us there. As always, you can hit like on our Facebook page and send us messages that way, and also leave comments. We do love hearing from you. If you want to show us even more support, we have a Patreon page, Brian.
Whew, that was fast. Let me see if I can do it. If you head over to patreon.com/moviefilmpodcast, hit subscribe for only $5 a month. You'll find every commentary we've ever done and every episode moving forward absolutely ad-free. Our free feed will always be available, but this is our way of providing what we believe is the most satisfying way to enjoy the show. No ads, no breaks. Plus, your subscription will go a long way in helping to support us and helping to sustain producing this show. So if you're interested and able, please head over to patreon.com/moviefilmpodcast and hit subscribe. We'd be very grateful.
And there we go. And if you're looking for me online, you can find me on social media at Zacky's Corner. That's ZAKIS Corner. You can also find my reviews at the San Francisco Chronicle and the Wrap on IGN. Coming up at IGN, I have a look at Batman Forever for its 30th anniversary.
Ooh.
So that'll be a fun one. And Brian, what about you? What do you have going on?
Episodes I've written of Young Jedi Adventures, as always, streaming on Disney+.
And with that, on behalf of my partner, Brian Hall, my name is Zachy Hassan. This has been Movie Film 319. We'll catch you next time. Thanks, everybody.
Welcome, friends, it's the Movie Film Podcast. The Movie Film Podcast, enjoy the show. Zachy and Brian are talking about movies. Movie Film Podcast on the radio.
Having a life scholarship and being able to afford to go to college made me feel inspired to go.
When I got a life scholarship, it was such a relief.
I knew that I wanted to have an impact. Having a life scholarship through the SC Education Lottery was huge. It gave me the opportunity to make that impact right here at home.
The South Carolina Education Lottery. A better you, a better us, a better South Carolina. Visit sceducationlottery.com/betteryou.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.